the frequency or the sweep. Okay, it's the same thing in the minus M32 and the same thing in any other digital mixers. Just find the knobs and know what to do. And finally, we have the gain. Now, if I'm able to determine the width of whatever I want to cut down with my Q factor, then I'm able to determine the frequency or sweep around, okay, where I want to cut. Then this gain determines how much decibel or how much volume or how much I'm to reduce or increase. Again, let's say I want to, let me sweep down to around the 4K area. 4K, okay, we're around the 4K area now. So I want to cut down the 4K area by some decibel. And if you check your values, you are seeing down here, you see the values of the, okay, I've dropped it down by 3 decibels, okay. This is just how it works. So I can take it further down by as much as this mixer allows us up to minus 15 to plus 15. Okay, on some other parametric EQs on the software version, you're allowed up to 30 decibels. So that's a whole large amount of deduction and addition anyway. So that's just basically about the equalizer. So the next thing, after everything happens on equalizer, the next thing we have here is the gate. Yes, what is the gate? Gate is like is a dynamic sharpener, of course, with the compressor. So they are similar, but then in the case of the compressor, let me open up. Okay, let's talk about the compressor first of all. Yes, open it. I'm not going to be explaining details about compressor because this is going to take a long time. I'll do that in our classes, or maybe I'll make videos later to post about it. But it's a dynamic, basically a dynamic sharpener. It just cuts down the peaks in performances or in audios, and it cuts down the peaks of the audio and takes up the lower part according to your desired settings anyway. So basically in the compressor we have 4 basic elements of a compressor. Basically we have the threshold, 5 basic, yes, 4 basic, okay, excuse me. We have the come here, the threshold, very, very important. Without the threshold, nothing happens. Like I said, I'm going to be making videos about compressors later and how to properly use a compressor. We have the ratio. It tells us how much of reduction we want to do. We have the attack here. The attack tells us when these things we have told it to do, we have told the threshold has told us what to do, or the level at what to do it, and the ratio told us how much to do, okay? And the attack tells us how much or when to begin it. Okay, I'm just using a very easy description. Then the release, come to the screen. The release tells us how long do you want these things you've done to stay. Okay, that's just basically the 4 important ones. And then of course we have the gain. It's called a makeup gain. Okay, after we have the idea of the compressor is to cut down the peaks, okay, after we have just to make sure everything is at a normalized volume, so that we don't want to have some part of the audio shouting high or hitting very hard and the rest at a very low. We want to have a balanced audio as possible. So this gain will help us take the volume up back to the desired level we want it to be. Okay, that's to how much gain we have compressed, we can just make it up to the way it was before, so that everything comes back to normal. Of course, as I said, I'll be taking a special lecture on this compression. Okay, then we have the gate here. Of course, we include the view. Gate is a similar, come this way. It's as similar as the compressor as well. We have a threshold. We have the mode, whether you want it as a gate or as a dock. But then we want this as a gate. So this is the threshold, the attack, the hold, the release, the same thing exactly similar to the compressor. So what this basically does is restrict the other bleeds from other instruments, interrupting a particular, like I don't want some, at this level, we start to, on the threshold level, no other sound should be able to come into this microphone that I'm using. So it keeps away other sounds, or it reduces other environmental bleeds into a particular instrument. It's usually used or works on a microphone, of course, not for instruments. All right, so microphone picks up virtually everything around is surrounding. So we keep many things away. I'm just using a layman language to explain this. So that's what happens here. So after all this has been processed, Okay, then your signal now goes into the mains and the buses. Okay, come closer. These are the buses, of course. And in the X32 we have 16 outputs, which includes the delay, that's the FX channels as well. Okay, but on this settings I'm using, basically for this setup I did here, I'm using only 8. Okay, we have the FOA sub, the monitors, and every other part. So to do that is, of course, don't forget we have to select the channel we're doing, and then let's assume I've set the volume I want. So this volume just controls the volume you are sending to your mains, of course, which you know is the front of house. Okay, this controls this. It's the same level that anything you are sending here affects here. Okay, but it does not affect the monitor. So there's a knob called sense on faders. So I've already done 1 or 2 settings. So this tells me the amount of, you can see as I click the sense on fader, the knobs change. So let's assume on this talking drum channel, this is a talking drum set. I want to send more of this microphone into the talking drum. Then this determines how much volume that goes into it. Now, when I'm done, be careful to click back the sense on fader. So it takes you back to the normal screen. So I take it again. The sense on fader. Look at the adjustment I made. Just appeared here. So these are independent of the main. Anything that happens around here does not affect your mains, but whatever we have done around all this area affects everything. So the signal comes in, I'm concluding, comes in from your input from the back here, or from your audio link or your snake cable or whatever format you're coming from. Then it comes into your preamp. Your preamp distributes to the equalizer, down to the compressors, to the gate, and up to this point. Okay, so then to the mains. Before this volume is here, actually your gain is independent of this volume. So this is not your actual energy sending in, but your gain determines the energy that comes into your mains. Okay, and we have to be very, very careful about that. We have to be very, very careful about what we do with the input gain. That is the bulk of that determines the quality of sound we are actually working on. We don't want a sound too low that will pick up noise, and we don't want it too high that when everybody starts performing at high energy, the whole sound will be in trouble. Okay, and we're going to blow up things and become have a distorted sound. Okay, so finally that's just all about the signal flow. So everything else happens independently. Okay, we'll talk later more on the compressor alone. We'll talk about the equalizer alone and how to go about it, but this is just your way around what happened. The same thing happens on the analog board. After all the same thing goes on, what does happen in most analog board is this compression. But I've seen a couple of analog boards that have 1 or 2 compressors that does not have the parameters to adjust. Okay, you just have only one-way settings. So you compress. It has a fixed threshold, a fixed attack, a fixed ratio, a fixed release, and which we don't really want that. Okay, because it's an analog board. Okay, but basically the analog board just gives you this preamp option or gain option. Once you're done with that, it takes you to the equalizer, which is basically a 4-band or 3-band EQ or parametric EQ setup, which you are still limited. But in a parametric EQ as this, we are not limited. Please show me the screen. Yes, we are not limited to what we want to do. We're not limited to anything. So we can go as far as, okay, excuse me, I cut down this part of, I don't need this frequency, I cut it down. Let me just drop a little secret on equalizer. Less is more. Okay, don't assume your sound is not good because you've not made your equalizer look like the Nigerian map or the South African map or the African map. No, it has to be mild is everything, moderate is fine. Just find the problem, fix the problem. That is what equalizer does. Fixing up problems, it does not necessarily mean you tweak and tweak and tweak until you no. Less is everything. And if you find yourself doing more of boosting than cutting, then you are doing a whole lot of things wrong. So you do more of removal of unwanted frequencies than addition of frequencies. Mind you, anytime you tamper the EQ, you have tampered the volume of that setting. So EQ, whether you boost up a particular frequency, you have tampered the volume, you use a particular EQ gain of a particular frequency, you have also reduced the entire volume of the gain, but then with a relative amount. So you put all those things into consideration. Then after, finally I'll close with this, after all these things, the next thing that happens is you have your desire to put your effect, come to the screen, to put any special effect like like your delays. We have options to select from your delays, your reverbs, your flangers, your stereo, your chorus, your stereo imagers, compressors, what have you. Okay, but then you need to be careful when using such instrument, because if you don't have to use them, you might damage all your setup. So I think this is basically all I can say about the signal flow in a mixer. It's same thing applies to your analog, same thing applies to your digital. All right, thank you very much. Of course, the digital allows you many functions, muting of groups at one button click. You can mute, you can assign, show the overall. So I assign all the drums to channel 1. So on one mute, everything goes off. Instead of having to do them one by one, all the microphones, I can turn off everything. I've assigned everything to separately. And then yes, one more thing on the DCAs. This is a DCA or a group DCA. This means digitally controlled amplifiers. Okay, that's the meaning of DCA. So this is equivalent to the groups on an analog mixer. So look, for example, I've selected I think this has 8 DCAs. Yes, 8 DCAs. So I can assign every drum on DCA 1. Yes, so this gives me an opportunity to turn up and turn down the volumes of the drum. Instead of me, I want to, maybe the drummer is playing too loud. Instead of me to start turning them one by one and affecting my mix, I could just turn down the entire drum at once. I could just mute the entire drum. These are another way to mix it. So, but be careful. Anything you do on the DCA affects your main, but does not affect your buses or your auxiliary in the analog board. Does not affect in. So everything you are doing basically affects your mains. Okay, I'll have to do that in our subsequent lesson. Thank you very much. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube pages and our Facebook pages. All right, thank you.